I never thought I'd be the guy who sits down to write one of these. The "my wife humiliated me and I got cold" kind of story. But here we are. My name's Ethan. I'm 35, a financial analyst, and, according to my wife, the safest man in the room. Her words, not mine. I used to take that as a compliment. I don't anymore. My wife, Madison, is 33. She's got that magnetic personality, the kind of woman who commands attention when she walks into a room. Funny, sharp, just the right dose of sarcasm to keep people on their toes. At parties, she lights the place up. And lately, it felt like all that light was pointed away from me. Let me be clear about one thing. I'm not a dramatic man. I don't like conflict. I believe in staying calm, being rational, thinking before reacting. But sometimes when someone sets fire to your dignity in front of a room full of people, staying calm turns into something else, something colder. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Let's go back 3 months. The night it all started. The toast. It was a Saturday night, early spring. Madison's best friend Haley had just gotten engaged, and they were throwing an engagement party at a rooftop bar downtown. Madison was glowing. Black silk dress, heels that made her just tall enough to tease me about finally being eye level, red lipstick like armor. She looked stunning. I told her so. She smiled, leaned in and said, "Let's try not to bore anyone tonight, okay?" I thought she was joking. That was her way, biting sarcasm as flirtation. I gave a half smile and nodded, but there was something clipped in her tone I couldn't shake. The party was nice. String lights, champagne towers, the usual curated Instagram vibe. Everyone was dressed to be seen. I hovered near the bar, mostly talking with a couple of Madison's friends' husbands. We weren't exactly close, but we had that tired man camaraderie, trading stories about mortgage rates and back pain while pretending we didn't notice our wives laughing too hard at other men's jokes. At some point, someone rang a glass for attention. Madison stepped forward, heels clicking like she owned the place. She raised her glass. People turned. Quiet settled. She smiled that confident, theatrical smile and said, Okay. I just want to say a few words. First, to Haley and Matt. You two are sickeningly cute and I hate you, but I love you. Cheers to that." Laughter. Clinks of glasses. Then she turned to me. I was standing a few feet behind her, sipping from a half-empty glass of bourbon. "And now, a quick toast to my husband, Ethan, because I truly believe marriage is about growth. And my husband? He's grown so much." She paused, smirked. "Being with him is like cuddling a roommate, cozy, but zero spark." There was a beat of silence. Then, laughter. Awkward, stuttering, unsure if it was okay to laugh. Some people laughed out of reflex. Some just looked away. I didn't laugh. I didn't blink. I didn't move. I just stood there, glass in hand, heart pounding behind my ribs like it was trying to claw its way out. She glanced back at me with that smug little just a joke smile, the kind she uses when she wants to get away with saying something awful. I smiled, took a slow sip of my drink. And in that moment, something inside me hardened. Not out of rage, not out of hurt, out of clarity. This wasn't a joke. This was a message. One she thought I was too spineless to answer. But it seems she didn't know me well. We didn't talk about the toast that night. Not in the car. Not when we got home. Not when she kicked off her heels, wiped off her lipstick, and crawled into bed like nothing happened. She didn't even look at me. I stood in the bathroom for a long time, staring at my reflection in the mirror. I should have said something, right? I should have snapped back, called her out in front of everyone, thrown a drink, made a scene. But I didn't. That's not who I am. I don't do theatrics. I calculate. I observe. And that night, I saw everything I needed to. I showered, dried off, slipped on a t-shirt, crawled into bed next to her. She was scrolling through her phone like always, laughing softly at something in her group chat. Maybe she was retelling the joke. Maybe they were rating my reaction. "You okay?" she asked, eyes still on the screen. Fine, I said. You were quiet tonight. I didn't answer, just turned away and stared at the wall. No drama, no accusations, just quiet. But not the kind of quiet she was used to. Not defeat, not pouting, not sulking. Cold quiet. The next morning she made pancakes. Her guilt pancakes. Light, fluffy, stacked high. That was her move, sugar to cover the rot. We good? She asked, flipping one onto a plate. Of course, I said. I even smiled. She leaned in and kissed me on the cheek, and I didn't flinch. I just kept sipping my coffee. She thought she'd gotten away with it, like she always did. A joke too far, a night too loud, a dig that cut just a little too deep, all smoothed over by pancakes and lip gloss. But this time was different. This time, I paid attention. Over the next few days, I became someone else. Or maybe I just woke up. I watched her more carefully. Not obsessively, not like some jealous freak, but like a man listening for static in a signal he used to trust. Her routine was predictable. Gym on Mondays and Thursdays, brunch with friends on Saturdays, girls' night every second Friday, Sunday yoga, hair appointments every other Wednesday. I knew these things because she told me, and because I used to believe her. But I started to notice little things. Her gym bag stayed clean. Too clean. The soles of her sneakers didn't have a single scuff. The water bottle inside still had the tag on it. One night, she came home from yoga with a blowout-level hairstyle, hotel soap scent clinging to her skin, and the same wine-colored lipstick I'd seen her apply before leaving. She claimed the class ran late, said they lit candles for atmosphere. I nodded, poured her a glass of wine, and kissed her on the forehead. You deserve to relax, I said. She smiled. I smiled back. And the next morning, I made a folder on my work laptop, called it documentation. Nothing fancy, nothing that would stand out, just a quiet place for the truth. I started small, took a photo of her unused gym bag, screenshotted her public calendar, added notes about times and places that didn't add up. Then I took one more step. I installed a tracker on her phone. Nothing illegal. The phone was on my company plan, technically mine. 3 days later, she didn't go to yoga. She went to the Thompson Hotel, downtown, valet, black coat, heels she said she'd grown out of. She stayed for 2 hours and 17 minutes. When she came back, she smiled like everything was normal, hugged me from behind while I was cooking, her hands on my chest, breath on my neck. Smells good, she said. So do you, I answered, without looking at her. She paused for a fraction of a second, then kissed my shoulder and walked away. I didn't say a word. Not about the location log, not about the hotel, not about the man with the BMW I'd seen her meet in the alley next to the building 2 weeks earlier. She thought I was in meetings that day. I wasn't. I'd taken a long lunch, sat in my car across the street, watched her laugh, touch his chest, walk away like nothing happened. I didn't take a photo. I didn't storm over. I just watched, burned it into my memory. And when I came home that evening, I handed her takeout and said, "Thought you'd be hungry." The next week, she started commenting on my mood. "You've been different lately," she said one night as we folded laundry. "How so?" "I don't know. Just calmer." I looked at her and smiled. Not bitter, not forced, just still. "I've been thinking a lot," I said. "About what?" "About how lucky I am." She smiled back, a little uncertain but flattered. She thought she'd won again. She thought she'd broken me into something more manageable. She was wrong. I wasn't broken. I was sharpening the blade. A few days after we folded laundry together and she called me calmer than usual, she left her phone, unlocked, open. I wasn't looking for anything, but I didn't stop myself either. A notification popped up. Can't stop thinking about last night. No name, just a number, no photo, just a little preview of betrayal. I stared at it for a full minute. Then I took a breath, picked it up, and sent the entire message thread to my own email. Just in case. You know, for my documentation. When she came back into the kitchen wrapped in a towel, humming like a teenage girl after prom, I was already chopping onions. She walked into the kitchen, saw me cooking, and said with a smirk, "Look at you, cooking again. Who are you, and what did you do with my husband?" I didn't turn to look at her, just kept chopping and said calmly, "He's still here, same guy." She laughed lightly and replied, "Well, no complaints from me," and walked out of the room. Inside that message thread, I found months of texts, late-night misuse, hotel arrangements, inside jokes, selfies, nothing explicit, but nothing deniable either. And the tone, it was nauseatingly familiar. The way she used to talk to me before she turned my name into a punchline. The man's name was Travis. He worked in marketing, divorced, lived alone, and according to one of her texts, he made her feel like a real woman again. Charming. I dug deeper, pulled his LinkedIn, his Instagram, the company site. I found an event he and Madison both attended 2 months ago, some branded networking thing with an open bar and rooftop photos. She told me it was just work. Of course it was. That weekend, I hired a private investigator. Nothing dramatic. Just a quiet guy who handled corporate due diligence. Discreet, efficient, professional. I sent him what I had. He called back the next morning. "You're not wrong," he said. "They've met up 6 times in the last month. Always different locations. Hotels mostly. Once at a house party. I've got timestamps, video, and parking receipts." "Photos?" I asked. "Plenty. Keep it quiet. Keep it clean." Of course. It was surreal, how easy it was to gather everything. Like the universe wanted me to see it. Like it had been waiting for me to finally open my eyes. She wasn't careful, because she never thought she had to be. I was the safe one, remember? The one who wouldn't cheat. The one who wouldn't leave. The one who'd always stay, no matter how many times she humiliated me in front of our friends. I started planning, but not out of spite, out of principle. A week later, I invited her to a little dinner at our place. "Just us," I said. "A quiet night in." She seemed surprised but pleased. "You're being so sweet lately," she said, lighting a candle at the table. "You deserve it," I said. "You're spoiling me." "You're worth spoiling." She smiled and reached across the table to touch my hand. And that's when I knew she had no idea what was coming. None. She thought she'd successfully rewritten the rules of our marriage, that she could belittle me, cheat on me, and still come home to a clean kitchen and a glass of wine. She thought I'd accepted my place, but what she didn't know, what she couldn't know, was that I'd already spoken to my lawyer, that I'd started shifting accounts, that the house was in my name, that she'd signed a postnup during the pandemic, just in case, and that it was airtight. What she didn't know was that I'd booked a private room in a restaurant the following Friday, and invited all the right people, her friends, her parents, Travis. She thought I was calm, but I was just waiting for the lights to dim. I picked the restaurant carefully, not too fancy, not too casual. One of those dimly lit places with private rooms, soft music, and a reputation for discretion, the kind where breakups, proposals, and corporate firings all happen behind closed doors. The kind of place that didn't ask questions when you requested a projector and a screen. The invitations went out subtly. I told Madison we'd be hosting a little dinner, our belated anniversary thing, something intimate. I let her pick the wine, choose the playlist, even decide the color scheme for the table settings, gave her control, made her feel like she was planning something. In the background, I sent private messages to a few key people. Her 2 closest friends, Claire and Jess. Her parents, who always treated me like a mild disappointment wrapped in khakis. A few of our mutual friends, the ones who were at the party that night, and of course Travis. I told him it was a surprise dinner for Madison and that she'd love to see him there. He accepted within 5 minutes. Of course he did. The PI sent me everything in a neat encrypted folder. Time-stamped photos, hotel entries, candid shots of them in the parking lot. One particularly sharp photo showed her kissing Travis near the valet stand, hand in his hair, eyes closed like she was 19 again. I almost felt bad for him. Almost. Madison had no idea. She was busy picking out a black dress, excited to show off her legs and cleavage. She asked if I'd wear the navy suit, the one she used to say made me look almost sexy. I said sure. The night of the dinner, everything went perfectly. Guests arrived, wine poured. The table was full of polite laughter and shallow compliments. Madison floated through the room like a hostess on a talk show. She was in her element, charming, radiant, completely unaware that the walls were closing in. I waited until dessert. Let her have her night. And then I stood up. "Can I steal a minute?" I said, clinking my glass gently. Chairs shifted, heads turned. "I just want to say thank you all for coming tonight," I began. "It means a lot to us, to me, that you're here, celebrating, well, what we've built." I looked at Madison. She smiled, proud and glowing. "And since we're celebrating, I wanted to take a minute to revisit one of the more memorable moments from the past few months." I turned to the waiter. "Would you mind dimming the lights? We've got a little video." A few confused chuckles rippled around the table. The screen came down, the projector hummed, and there, in crystal clear quality, played the clip. Madison, champagne flute in hand, that rooftop party. "And now a quick toast to my husband Ethan, because I truly believe marriage is about growth. And my husband, he's grown so much. Being with him is like cuddling a roommate, cozy, but zero spark." Silence. No laughs this time. "And since we're celebrating, I wanted to take a minute to revisit one of the more memorable moments from the past few months." I turned to the waiter. "Would you mind dimming the lights? We've got a little video." A few confused chuckles rippled around the table. The screen came down, the projector hummed, and there, in crystal clear quality, played the clip. Madison, champagne flute in hand, that rooftop party. "And now a quick toast to my husband Ethan, because I truly believe marriage is about growth. And my husband, he's grown so much. Being with him is like cuddling a roommate, cozy, but zero spark." Silence. No laughs this time. I reached into my jacket, pulled out an envelope, and placed it gently in front of her. "These are the divorce papers. Everything's already filed. House stays with me. You can keep the silverware." Her mouth opened, then closed. Nothing came out. Travis, 3 seats down, went pale. He looked like he wanted to disappear into the tablecloth. "You'll be hearing from my attorney," I added, then turned to the rest of the room. "Thank you all for coming. I think this concludes our celebration." I walked out before anyone could say a word, and behind me, the silence roared. I didn't go home that night. I had already packed a weekend bag and booked a quiet Airbnb outside the city. Fireplace, no neighbors, no Wi-Fi. Just enough time and space to let the dust settle without hearing the sirens. She called 6 times, texted 24. "We need to talk. What you did tonight was cruel. It was private. Can we please just talk? I'm sorry, okay? I was stupid. I didn't think you'd actually... You're being dramatic. Please don't do this." I didn't answer any of them. Let them pile up like junk mail in a dead mailbox. Her parents called too. Left a voicemail saying they were concerned and willing to mediate. I forwarded it to my lawyer. Travis? Not a word. The last image I have of him is his face mid-collapse, realizing the room wasn't for him, that everything was orchestrated, that he'd been baited and served on a platter in front of people who now knew his name, his car, and his late-night habits. Madison stayed in the house for a week before leaving. She packed quietly, didn't slam doors, left a note on the kitchen counter. "I made mistakes, but what you did, that wasn't love." No signature, just that. She still didn't get it. This wasn't revenge out of heartbreak. This wasn't a tantrum. This was the last act of a man who had nothing left to explain. I kept the house. It's quieter now, cleaner, colder, but in a peaceful way. People still talk. Of course they do. Mutual friends either silently took sides or quietly ghosted. Some reached out, said they had no idea. She was doing that behind my back. I believed them, mostly. Claire, one of Madison's friends, messaged me a week after the dinner, said, "She's still in shock, she's angry, but also embarrassed. She didn't think you had it in you." I didn't respond. What was there to say? That's the whole point of silence. It doesn't need applause. The legal side went smooth. She fought back on a few points, but the postnup held up, ironclad. Credit to my lawyer. The man drafts contracts like poetry. She moved into a condo near her office. I assume it's temporary. I heard Travis moved jobs, something remote. I started therapy. Not because I'm broken, but because I wanted to make sure I never become numb. There's a difference between being calm and being gone. I never want to drift into that second place again. I also started cooking more. Turns out I'm decent at it. People sometimes ask if I regret doing it that way. If I wish I'd just left quietly, slipped away, moved on with dignity. But here's the thing. She didn't end our marriage with a betrayal. She ended it with a punchline. A room full of people, laughter, a mic drop toast. Being with him is like cuddling a roommate, cozy, but zero spark. So I gave her one last show, but this time I held the mic. It's been 6 months. People stopped asking questions a while ago, even the most persistent ones. The neighbors who used to smile too long, the co-workers who leaned in a little too close with, "Hey, I heard," all gave up eventually. Time, as always, does its thing. I still see Madison's name occasionally, a shared streaming account she forgot to log out of, a notification from an old group chat. Once I saw her on a mutual friend's Instagram. She was smiling, glass in hand, surrounded by people pretending not to know. We haven't spoken since the papers were signed. There's nothing left to say. Sometimes, late at night, I walk through the house barefoot, lights low, music soft. I like how the floor feels under my feet now. Solid, clean, mine. No footsteps I'm waiting to hear, no lipstick on wine glasses I didn't pour, no forced small talk at 10:43 p.m. Just silence, the good kind. I kept the dining table, the one where she used to host her friends, where she'd laugh too loudly, where she toasted my manhood into the dirt. It's a good table, real wood, heavy as hell. I sit there now with my laptop, my coffee, my thoughts. Sometimes I wonder if she tells people her version of the story. I'm sure she does. He overreacted. It was just a joke. He embarrassed me on purpose. He was never the same after that night. And maybe she's right. I wasn't the same, but not because of what she said, because of what I saw in her eyes when she said it. She thought I'd stay, that I'd laugh along, that I'd wear the shame like a cardigan and bring her coffee the next morning. She was wrong. I didn't just walk away. I turned the lights on first, let everyone see, and then I left. That's the part she never expected. That's the part no one sees coming. Not the rage, not the slap. Just the door closing softly, once you've seen everything, and finally, silence. Real silence. The kind that doesn't need a toast.